have thought it's not even an issue to debate. I mean, we're told that Johannesburg alone has the 4th largest GDP in Africa, and so it has all the attributes, some would think. But why not?
Absolutely, of course. I agree with you 100%. South Africa, certainly, there's nothing that should stand in the way of South Africa being, taking the lead. South Africa has everything that's required. We have a very good location. We've got very strong, we're very stable politically. We've got a phenomenal financial and banking infrastructure. We've got the human capital. So there's really nothing, that should stand in the way. And certainly, government has done some good things, absolutely. But maybe there are certain areas that need to be addressed more proactively.
Right.
We've seen the positives come through in the draft Tax Laws Amendment Bill in terms of certain incentives that are on offer. But if one considers those incentives in relation to what other jurisdictions potentially offer,
right.
Being, positioned as the gateway into Africa, then you'll understand that it's a pure drop in a very big sea.
Okay, let's talk about the limitations here, because what's needed is a favorable tax regime, a dynamic banking sector, and although we have the infrastructure, we have limitations in both these areas. Why is that?
Okay, so in terms of the incentives that are on offer, they are very limited in that they are not enough to incentivize a company to want to use South Africa as the headquarters, primarily because they address 3 particular areas, which are, the first one is, if you considered a regional headquarter company, then you don't necessarily have to have control foreign corporation legislation apply. Your thin capitalization won't apply, and your dividends declared are not subject to STC. Now, if you look at that, firstly, the first incentive that I mentioned, the control foreign corporation legislation, you may still have a situation where you have one of your African entities being considered as a control foreign corporation. It just takes it a step back and it looks at the indirect shareholding. So, there's certainly strides towards it and the intentions are there, but it's certainly not enough. And if you look at it in relation to, for example, a jurisdiction that comes to mind immediately is Mauritius. You look at Mauritius and you see a country where there's no exchange control, very important if you want to be the headquarters, and the gateway into Africa. It's a very friendly, business-friendly jurisdiction, a very tax-friendly jurisdiction. It has a very good treaty network. Yes, South Africa is negotiating a lot more treaties with African countries. Double tax agreements are really there to help manage the withholding taxes, which are very high in Africa. So essentially, if you look at the two and you as a business person are wanting to minimize your global tax liability and reduce your effective tax rate, which one are you going to choose? It's a no-brainer. So.
Okay. Andrew, this is a big issue, this one, South Africa's foreign exchange controls, and although there have been adjustments made in the recent budget tabled by Prav and Gordon, there is a sense that it's not enough.
Yeah, I don't think it is enough, and if we were ever going to get rid of foreign exchange controls, now would be the time. The rand is probably overvalued. It looks like it will stay that way on the back of low interest rates globally. So if things were going to change, now would be the time. And it obviously is a detractor for things like financial institutions looking to come here because it's the nature of their business. But if you look at South Africa, we've got everything in terms of what we need for this to happen. Infrastructure, legal system, telecommunications, you name it. It's just the policy issues, and that comes down to political will if we really want to change.
Okay, and a final question to you, Roxanna. Skills. We're often told that that's where where South Africa has a real shortfall and a deficit is skilled labor in general. And to create this as a financial hub, you'd need to be churning enough graduates out of business school to work within the banking industry, to work within the investment community. And there is a feeling that that's not happening, not on the scale that you have bankers coming into Manhattan or London or Hong Kong, for instance. Is it a real problem?
It is a problem, but I certainly think that there is still enough intellectual capital available to make it happen. Because if you look at businesses generally, they would use South Africa as an operational hub, not necessarily a financial hub, but an operational hub, which means that the human capital is still there. So maybe not at the level when you draw the comparison with the US, etc., but it certainly, you know, it has the platform that's needed to make it happen.
And how soon are we likely to see any decisions being taken, and what measures, what tangible changes would there be if Johannesburg would qualify to be a financial capital?
Well, you know, the draft Tax Laws Amendment Bill, you know, it came out, and we're just waiting now obviously for the bill. But to answer your question, it's, you know, the idea is there, but it's just not going. It's not going to be put into effect in its truest form, primarily because of those limitations that we mentioned previously.